Evening, folks. Welcome to a Wednesday night edition of the Buddy Martin Show. I'm Buddy Martin. This program's heard 4 times during the week and once on weekends. And tonight is kind of a grim story we're going to start with. I know you've probably heard about it concerning the quarterback for the Florida Gators, JALEN KITNA, and his arrest. We'll talk about that at some point. We're going to get into it. I know a lot of you Gator fans are upset about it, as we all are. So we'll get into it and talk about it in a very high level professional way. And I hope Gator fans understand it's not something we like to report or talk about, but if we're journalists, we have to write and talk about it, and we'll do that in a responsible way. On the program in just a moment, we'll have some reports there from Kyle Curtis, who's been working the story all day. He'll be telling us the latest information, the story that's posted online. I know many of you probably heard about it. If you hadn't, you better brace yourselves. And we'll have later on, we'll have Scott Carter, who was scheduled to be on the show. Won't speak a lot about that, but he will have other things to say. Basketball game going on right now as we speak. And then, of course, this Wednesday night, and David Moulton, brought to you by TitanMRI.com. Stay tuned. It's coming your way right now on the Buddy Martin Show. Tell your friends and neighbors are on the air.
It's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Good evening. Welcome to the program. We're going to address the JALEN KITNA story right away, and we're going to do it in a responsible way. We want you folks to know, don't get mad at the messengers, okay? These are all facts, and sometimes we have to have the facts, and it's not sugar-coated, and it hurts, and it really cuts you to the bone. And tonight's story will do that. In just a moment, we'll have Kyle Curtis, who worked the story. I want to just start out with one little up note before we get into the story that's pretty grim. Tonight was a night to be celebrated by the Ocala quarterback couple. So Gainesville. Two things going on. This guy is a special person in our community, the captain of the quarterback club. He's done so many good things. Mike McGinnis. That was a pleasure for me tonight to present him with the Doug Oswald Founders Award, which is for his outstanding service and leadership. It's an award that's given to the person who's had the most significant impact on the program, and Mike McGinnis is program chairman and captain, has done that. Congratulations, Mike. Also, it's a night for our Scott Brantley Trophy finalists, these fine young men, tonight at the dinner. I'm going to identify them in a minute. We'll get back to them. They're for four different schools in the area. You might even recognize Mark Whittemore on the back of his head there, and his son, Creed. One of the ones that were, in fact, I'll just read out their names real fast. Creed Whittemore from Buchholz, Dylan Provencher, I hope I pronounced it right, from Oak Hall, Jawarin Corbin from South Sumter, and Tay Floyd from Forest. All tonight representing the finalists for the Scott Brantley Trophy, which encompasses a lot of things, including football and character and faith and citizenship. So congratulations to those young men. All right, let's get back to it now. I want to bring in our intrepid reporter. The guy's done a heck of a job today and flesh this story out. And I know it was hard for him. He first told me about it, and I read about it later. All of you heard now. I'm just going to read these first few paragraphs, and then we're going to talk about no opinionating here, just the facts, what we know. We're not going to guess about it. But we are going to report this story, which is unfortunate. And I read from the story on Gator Bait Now, Florida Gators backup quarterback JALEN KITNA was arrested Wednesday afternoon on at least 5 second-degree felony complaints, including possession with the intent to promote child pornography. Boy, it's hard to say that. According to the Alachua County Jail and Alachua County Online Records, according to the Gainesville Police Department and them, the Internet Crimes Against Children, ICAC, served a search warrant at 2308 Southwest 38th Avenue, part number 6. They received a tip from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. The tip says that a Discord user, that's a website I'm learning about, distributed an image of a sexual abuse material. And further investigation revealed the images were from the residence of University of Florida quarterback JALEN KITNA's Discord account. Police spoke with KITNA. He said he recalled 2 images, but they were illegal since he thought they discovered them online. However, police obtained his devices. They say they have found 3 additional images of child sexual material. KITNA was charged with 2 counts of child exploitation material and 3 counts of possession child pornography. University of Florida, I'll read your statement and then we'll go to Kyle. University of Florida Athletic Association says KITNA has been suspended indefinitely from the football team. Quote, "We are shocked and saddened to hear the news involving JALEN KITNA. These are extremely serious charges, and the University of Florida and UAA have zero tolerance for such behavior," said the UAA. All right, that's what it is. And Kyle, it's a tough story to write about. Some Gator fans are going to be unhappy with us, as they are others, right? But it's what happened. It's the facts. And so tell us what you know. We're not going to speculate or opinionate. What do you know?
Yeah, so obviously something really serious, and the university came out and said that they're not taking this, and KITNA is obviously suspended indefinitely. The university already came out and said that. And for anyone who doesn't know, Discord is kind of similar to Twitter, is a platform where you can kind of text people around the world, different communities and stuff like that, where you can kind of just message people, and kind of just a different way of text messaging. And yeah, I mean, I believe that they came out about an hour or so ago and said that his court hearing is Thursday morning. And that's kind of the extent we know right now.
Yeah, and so that's it. That's the legal side of it. And again, let me emphasize that in this country, innocent until proven guilty. But it was enough for him to be suspended of the football team. And so let's talk about it from the football side of things, because that's our field of expertise and not law. And we'll pass along this information if we get further information. Let me just say a shout out to our G team, Gator Bait team today, including Kyle, did a terrific job of taking the lead on this. Then Brendan Martin was all over it and helped the team get together, Carlton Reese and others. We hope to provide the highest standard of journalism on these matters and all matters as we plan our 2023 year. We want to be trustworthy. We want people to know that what we're writing about is not from a biased position, but one that is true journalist. And so, Kyle, thank you for that. Let's talk about, in the remaining minutes we got here before we get to Scott Carter, who I won't ask about this, because what can he say? He works at the university, but we'll talk. The thing about this is, in addition to the sad story and the horrible aspect of child pornography, it's just absolutely the worst thing in the world, in my opinion, and yours. Aside from that, the football side. Here we sit with a quarterback who is at least probable that he's going to go to the NFL. I was asked tonight at the quarterback club, do you think maybe that AR would stay on to the bowl game to compensate? And I thought, well, that's wishful thinking. It sounds nice, but I really don't. Nor do I think it should affect his decision on what he's going to do with his career, which means it would be Jack Miller's time if he's physically able, Kyle.
Yeah, so Um, like you said, I've been getting the same questions today, kind of circulating around if this will affect AR's availability in the bowl game. But Napier, whenever Kidna got in the game, he performed. He most people notably know him from the Eastern Washington game. He came in there, threw a few good balls, but on the year he had 180 yards and a touchdown, and he was poised to start if Richardson decided to forego that bowl game and open up that job for the bowl game. And a lot of people had already been talking about him for next season being the guy. So yeah, it's kind of just a big blow up to the whole campus. A lot of people have kind of been talking about it, just a little bit confused.
Yeah, and by the way, I was encouraged, and of course, these days it's a wild jungle out there in Twitter now with things coming apart. But I did see several people who were not Gator fans go on and say, hey, Gator fans, quit beating yourself up. This is not something that a coach could control. A person
Right.
like this does it on his own. He's not culpable and whatever. And that's all true. But yeah, I'm with you, Van Der. We're going to hold our fire, but we also can't ignore the story. And Michael Burton points out that Coach Spurrier did a great job talking to high school players this week, and he's very good at things like this. Um, all right, I don't know what the channel the game is on. Lauren's there, so maybe somebody else can tell. Christopher, we're in the middle of trying to do a story here. Uh, yeah, there's many comments online here. A lot of people online tonight. As we bear down on this story, we'll have a follow tomorrow. This whole website is a whole other story, which I don't know enough about to talk about. But we are going to give the innocent and give the person the benefit of innocence proven guilty, but the action has been taken. Uh, I will say that the action portends not good news, whatever happens. And the way this came down, I spoke to several lawyers today about it, how it happened. There's a lot of vagaries of this incident, when it happened, how many people were involved. It doesn't bode well that they came in his house at 3:20 and basically took his other devices. And the story he told, according to the police report, he said that he basically had gotten, these images online, thought they were legal, and passed them on. Except, according to police again, when they came in and invaded his, and took over his computer and phone, they found other images of child porno. Is that what you heard, Kyle?
Yeah, so they came in at 3:20 today, and like you said in the police report, it said that those pictures had been sent on Discord, and
On his
that's
account.
just on his account. Yeah, and at the time he said that he thought it was legal, but following sending the pictures, his Discord account did get disabled, and he wasn't able to send anything or anything like that. And they said that it was being notified, so he knew something was wrong, according to the police report. And yeah, being able to nothing's safe once it's on the internet, and I think that's kind of just what I was able to and everyone's able to take away from this situation.
Yeah, hard story to write about and report about, and to hear. You were at the fraternity house today. There were people were talking about it in the early stages. You talked about it, how you didn't know what exactly it was, but it wasn't good, and you'd been hearing a lot of things about it, and it didn't. It sounded like it could be related to child porn, and you don't like to report those or talk about them until there's been an action by the cops. And there's the action. Now, they usually point out the court hearing is tomorrow morning. Is that right?
Thursday, yes, sir.
Tomorrow's
Thursday
Thursday. Yeah.
morning.
So, all right. So, all right. Well, we'll follow that story because it's certainly significant from numerous sides. I feel bad for Billy Napier, who's gone through this year unscathed on the character issues.
Right.
And then to
Yeah.
have it happen like this, like a bomb go off, that was unfortunate for
Like you
him.
said, like you said though, being able to go on Twitter and not see, I don't know if I saw one tweet of bashing the Florida Gator football program because of this. So that was encouraging that people recognized, hey, this isn't a culture problem. This isn't anything like this. This is something that was individual and self-inflicted.
Yeah, and I love to see the fans. Look, I think if the shoe were on the other foot, um, I think we would, if they were another player at say Tennessee or whatever, we would respect that. We certainly wouldn't blame the coach, that's for sure.
Right.
So one last thing, Frank wants to know if Miller's physically able to play. My understanding is that he is. That's what we're
He's been
hearing.
active. He's been active the past few weeks. I think since
Right.
week 7 or 8. So if I would say, obviously the roster is kind of the last thing everyone's been thinking about today, but I would say that he's probably the favorite to get the most snaps. Or we have walk on Kyle Engel.
Yeah, Dan Bond, you're right about this. It is a horrible situation. We all feel bad for his family and him. He's 19. Hopefully, this doesn't ruin his life. I talked to an attorney at length about this tonight who's handled many of these cases. Unfortunately, if true and convicted, it will ruin his life. And for that, we feel grievous. And unfortunately, it's a sad day.
Yeah, 100%. And according to the ESPN article I was posted earlier, with the charges he's facing, he could face up to 15 years.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
it depends on the level of involvement and a lot of other
right,
things, but we'll follow that sad story and we won't remember this season finally. It just went south on us in that regard, and our thoughts and prayers go out to everybody involved with their family and what have you.
definitely.
Thank you, Kyle. Good job tonight. We appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
All right. Yeah, Kyle got baptized today in a breaking story on a tough subject. And you don't sign on to do cover the cops and things like that when you become a sports writer. We're not prepared for that. But this world crosses many lines, and you find yourself doing things you never thought you might have to do, like reporting stories like this. And it's very shocking. It's the real world out there, and boy, oh boy, it's really hurts that we'll have to do this with these young men. In fact, so much. I talked to a lot of my friends the last couple of days about what was going to happen, and a long conversation with one of the most ardent Gator fans last night online, and on the phone, and we talked about who should be the next quarterback, whether Anthony Richardson should stay or not stay. What did I think? And I told him this. I'll say it to you. I think there's a 5 to 8% chance Anthony would stay. And I don't know this. I'm just sort of using my judgment here. That if somehow he fell to the middle of the second round or even to the third round, which we've seen Brady Quinn fall a long way, you never know. Maybe he wants to reevaluate and say, you know what? I can get better. I can be a first-round pick. So the following year, a lot of the quarterbacks will be gone. I'll stay and play. I'm also told by some people in the know that he needs to go, that they need to move on to another quarterback. And my comment was, look, here's the deal. I said it on someone on the show that I've seen, and I'm not bragging about this. I'm not an expert, but I've seen every quarterback who's played at Florida since the middle 50s, okay? I'm old. I've seen them, every one of them. I can tell you this. I can think of 4 other, maybe 5 other quarterbacks that have the upside that Anthony Richardson has. I know you're going to tell me he's not accurate, he's not this, whatever. I get all that. He's also 21, just turned. He's got gifts. He weighs 240 and he runs like a deer. And he's got an arm of a shotgun for an arm. And I think you can teach accuracy and you can teach mechanics and you can teach some things. And he can get better. He can get better. So I'll take my chances with a guy with that skill set if he'd come back and play. And I think with what they got coming in, there's going to be massive changes, as you all know. There'll be massive changes here in the transfer portal. And if possible, this will be a much better team. I'm not going to project wins. I would like to think they'd be in the 9 to 10 area if they get everybody they want or most of what they got. They have a good recruiting season. They got the best 1-2 running back combination in the country. They got to make the defense a lot better. The transfer portal is full of people. My gosh. I mean, I saw, let's see, 5 or 6 Alabama players are in there. They're everywhere. And the deadline, by the way, is really you can't go until the 5th of December. And this is what, the 30th of November. So it's going to get crazy out there. I mean, crazy. And in many ways, it's exciting. It's kind of like when free agency came along, and we had, we had the first free agent signed in baseball many years ago, and people said it was going to wreck baseball and everybody the same. Well, it didn't. And it means a team can change their rosters quickly and instead of being in the minors 10, 15 years, get a chance to play and move around. This is what this is about, isn't it? Isn't this what we want to see? Teams to be able to get better quick. And now this is our free agency. We've seen it. We're seeing more of it. And now Florida could be the beneficiary of this. Two things really that I think are important here is that Florida has a really terrific reputation as a school and as a football program. A coach that is highly regarded, even though we went 6-6. I keep hearing the Gator Bowl, by the way. I don't know if that's what Franz wrote today. I can't see how that could happen, but maybe it will. Anyway, my point is that this school has $100 million facility, a huge budget, big NIL deals, plays in the SEC, and Georgia's not going to be the king forever. If you want to come play and make a difference, you can come to this school and you can probably play. If you're a defensive player, especially if you're a lineman or a linebacker, you're going to get on the field pretty quick if you're any good. So a message is out there to fans, and someone asked me today, well, how do they get these players? How do players do they know? Listen, are you kidding me? If you got a friend that plays for Florida and he's got a friend in Minnesota who's a 285-pound, 300-pound offensive lineman who'd like to play in Florida, you bet they let him know. And they talk. And this is how, and I know there's a lot of rules, regulations. They're not being enforced, folks, right now. I'm sorry. The NCAA is a toothless tiger. And so as regard, it's going to be crazy. But Florida could be the beneficiary to all this. And this could be something that would be played right into Billy's hands. We're missing Scott Carter tonight. He's MIA. We're going to try to contact him. Standing behind him, we're going to have we've got David Moulton. Maybe we'll get Moulton on early and see what he's got to say about this. And again, it's it's a sad night for those who have not heard. JALEN KITNA booked in Alachua County Jail on 2 counts of distribution of child exploitation material and 3 counts of possession of child pornography based on his use of the social app Discord. According to police, booking log shows he was charged with unlawful possession of video or images putting a child engaged in sexual activity. He was booked at 3:20 on today. Anyway, that's the story that's posted on GatorBet right now. And we're going to take a break, come back, and we'll hear from our friend. Let's hear from David. No, let's go hear from Jeffrey Meldon. Stand by. Things don't always go your way. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And that's the nature of sports. But when it goes right, it's really a lot of fun. And nobody has more fun rooting for the Florida Gators than this guy, Jeffrey Meldon. It's been quite a year, huh?
Yeah, we had a blast. For the first time in my life, I got to ride with the Gator football team on the plane up to Nashville, Tennessee. And that was quite an experience.
I'll bet you had a good trip up, at least, for sure.
Oh, man, buddy, the difference between the mood on the plane going up versus the mood on the plane coming back was night and day.
Yeah, it's a tough one when your team doesn't win. Now, the rest of the season, we'll see. But, Jeffrey, there are other sports at Florida. When things are not going the way you want to, when you're not winning championships, what does one do? You like all the sports.
Yes. Well, we're lucky. We got an exciting basketball team. They came back the fourth largest comeback in Gator basketball history against FSU uh, Friday last Friday night, and it was really amazing. I'm sitting there with Scott Strickland, the athletic director, and he and I were just like regular fans. I want to let everybody know that Scott Strickland, he's stomping his foot on the ground. He's like going, using all the expletives and everything else. When the Gators would, do something good or not so good. And it was very exciting. We had about 80 boosters and athletic association team members at a great steakhouse watching the Gator basketball game. So that's an example of no matter what, in all kinds of weather, we all stick together.
All right. Thank you very much, Jeffrey Meldon. Yeah, Jeffrey has a good time. He wants you to know he's a serious attorney, though, although he laughs a lot and has a good time. And I talked to him today for about 45 minutes on the subject. He's well versed. He knows what's going on. And he forgets to say he has a firm, and you should contact him if you need help. So, all right, coming up, David Moulton will be joining us in just a moment here. We'll talk about I got a couple other notes to talk about here that aren't Jalen Kitno. Here's a note. Auburn's last three head coaches have now been former Arkansas State head coaches. Okay? And that means, according to this tweet, that means if Hugh Freeze doesn't work out, Butch Jones is Auburn's next coach. That's pretty good. So here's 6 Alabama players who who gone to the portal already. It's happening everywhere. Running back Trey Sanders, quarterback Kyrie Jackson, offensive lineman Damian George, wide receiver Christian Leary, offensive lineman Tanner Bowles, and wide receiver Trayshawn Holden. That's just the people from Alabama. And I'm telling you, by the 5th of December, it'll look like the Mississippi River is flooding. There are going to be so many people changing. And some people like that, think it's good. One of them's this guy. He thinks it's a great thing when the portal run is over and people get to go everywhere, and he just loves chaos. My friend David Moulton joins the program. Hello, David. How you doing?
Well, buddy, when you do 4 hours of sports talk radio a day, you need chaos. I mean, status quo doesn't work.
I feel you.
But you know my feeling. My feeling is if the coaches can have the freedom of movement that they have, then I think you have to allow the football players.
Yeah, for sure. A lot going on today. We've been talking about the obvious story for a while here. We don't want to just belabor it constantly, but you get your thoughts on it. Serious stuff, obviously, and not looking good for the player and his family and what have you, and it's very sad. Quickly, based on what you know, David, what's your take on the Jalen Kitna arrest?
Well, first off, I do feel badly for his family. I feel badly for the university. I mean, there's no university that you recruit and you think that a student or an athlete is going to end up with headlines like this. And it's shocking and it's appalling. And I feel badly because, you can't expect behavior like this. And to have it give a coaching staff or a program, a bad mark. I mean, you can't anticipate something like this. So he's obviously going to no longer be in school at some point, and certainly he's no longer going to be with the program here very quickly. And have no idea if he can, even if it all gets dismissed. It's going to be tough to see somebody give someone a second chance when that's the accusation. and actually, he's arrested for it. He's going to have to appear tomorrow morning and face the charges. I mean, it's awful.
I don't even know where to start. We wrote a story about it. We checked all our facts, crossed our T's, dotted our I's, got the police report, what have you. We took I'm sure you saw the apology, the statement by the university. And there's really not much more to say about it. And I don't know if saying anything about it is productive. I guess the next follow up is what's this website Discord about? Apparently, it's really big among gamers, and I know very little. They tell me it's got 250 million followers. It's not a porn site. It just happened. This image popped up on there, and and look, it's such a serious deal. If you want to ruin somebody's life, you tell lies about him being a child pornographer.
Well, supposedly he cooperated with the authorities.
Right.
He didn't
No,
deny that the stuff was his.
no,
He
exactly.
just said, "I thought you're allowed to use it. I got it from somewhere else. So since I saw it, I thought it was therefore legal." So he's not. I mean, what he said to the police when they knocked on his door, he's not denying that it's his, and that at least based on the quotes that I saw, he basically admitted his guilt.
And here's the bad part about it.
He was guilty of it.
Of those things. And they went to his other devices and found more pictures of child pornography.
Right. Yeah.
So it wasn't like he just went on the porn site, Yeah,
it's hideous. I feel badly for his family. And I do feel badly for Florida. They didn't deserve this. You never think that someone's going to go down this road. And the fact that the program is in any way stained by this, I feel badly for them. They don't deserve it.
That's a tough one. All right, so let's scurry on down the road to many things to discuss. David does his show 5 days a week, right? And Miller Moulton, you can hear it in several locations. He's living in Jacksonville now, running Jacksonville. It didn't take him long. He was running Jacksonville in the first 2 months he was there, and now he's moving on to other bigger, better things. For those of you who don't know, David's a big-time guy. He does NFL games. He works with Gary Danielson and the crew. By the way, Gary looks pretty good compared to the guy that called the game last Friday night. Oh, my gosh.
Okay. You know what? I'm really glad you brought this up. I felt awful for the fans of both teams. They get the primetime slot on a Friday night. By the way, second highest rated game of the weekend next to only Ohio State, Michigan. I don't know if this.
You know that.
Yeah, 6.7 million people watch. That's a good number. I mean, Iron Bowl did about 6.3 and what have you. I mean, it was the second highest rated college game of the weekend next to only, obviously, Ohio State, Michigan. I mean, outrated Notre Dame USC by a couple 100,000. I don't know if that will change either program's view about having the game. But if by chance they want to have this game again on ABC, which I think they should do, by the way, I'm in favor of this. Okay, but if you're going to do it, you need to absolutely make a demand from the network. Hi, we get one of your top 3 crews.
We don't get the 5th, 6th string. That was awful. No, I never criticized guys like this. This guy was awful.
And Brock Osweiler was terrible. Both of them were bad.
Yeah. Osweiler was worse.
Yeah, and they did not get a good technical crew. The camera work, the directing, it was not good.
And the officiating, by the way, was pretty
bad.
Well,
prime time on ABC, and you hand down that kind of a crew.
Really? Garbage.
I will say this, the 6.7 million viewers, I think, will make ESPN/ABC assign a different crew to it right then and there.
They'll be ashamed of themselves, really.
Yeah, it was awful. It was absolutely awful. And it's very rarely, it's been proven that people don't watch games because of the announcers. All right. But I will say their enjoyment of the game can be greatly affected. And I'm sure you've heard.
Intruded upon.
Yes, that how many Gators and Knowles fans' enjoyment of the game, a terrifically entertaining game, by the way,
It was, especially
was,
if you were just a neutral observer, it was good.
and to have it impacted in a negative way by the announcers is awful. I would think if they do it again, and my hope is both schools for another year or two would keep that time slot in that network because I think it's working for both of them. I
I
mean, to
just
get
don't
nearly,
like Friday nights.
I understand it. I
Spurrier would
understand it.
never agree to play on a Friday night. Never.
Yeah, but here's the difference, buddy. Spurrier didn't have to play on a Friday night.
Yeah, right.
The Gators were in the top 10, if not the top 5.
Right.
These two programs are not where they were in the 90s. They need this little ploy for a short window. That's it. They need it for a short period of time until they get back to where it is that they plan to get. And so if I was Florida, I would agree to this for 2023. Then the Knowles would probably do it again in 2024, and then Florida can decide if they want to do it again in 2025. But that's a really good number, buddy, for a game. It really is. And you don't have any competition. How many times have the Gators lined up with no sports competition? I mean, that can benefit you. When you
You're right
need
about
it
that.
most.
You're right about that. It is.
You need it now. Get 2 more recruiting classes, you don't need it.
Yeah. Yeah, Spurrier used to start the season on Thursday nights because he liked having 10 days after the first game, and he had an audience all to himself back before when he went to South Carolina, not just Florida.
Yes.
So, so that's a good point, David. Very good point.
But I'll say this, if I'm Florida, I'm not kidding. I would say to ABC, ESPN, we'll do the game next year, Friday at 7:30. We get to pick the announcing crew.
And somebody else got to pick the officials. That's atrocious.
Well,
That's the combination of the two. When you put those two together, it's as bad as I've ever seen in college football. The combination of the announcers and the officials. And by the way, the fans link them together, as you know. Mentally, they really link them together. And you know this, David. You're a seasoned hand. You've been to many games. You travel. I mean, in a way, Gary Danielson had to be laughing at what he saw, based on how bad they say he is.
Well, I think most everyone in network television felt better about themselves Friday night.
That's true. That's true. So, all right, the transfer portal. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, but Tim, and I would say to Tim, less late in November, there's not nearly as many high school games. You're pretty deep into the playoffs on Friday night. And also this deep into the recruiting cycle, there are not a lot of undecided kids. The argument of, well, Friday night you're not going to have as many kids show up for the game for recruiting. That's true. All right. But by the same token, there are not a ton of undecideds right now. There really aren't. They just can't formally commit yet for another 3 weeks. But most everybody knows where everybody's going.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to a friend of mine earlier, and I was talking to Shane, and we talked about the difficulty of working through the fog of the internet, and now Twitter's worse than ever because you don't know what's going on there, and trying to figure out these stories, which are impossible to report. And as a journalist, I'm trying to encourage my guys that try to be a journalist. Try to, as much as you can, nail it down. If you need to quote a source and you think it might be true and you want to say, according to a report from Twitter, okay, if you really believe it's true or think it's true. But for the most part, and this story on KITNA is a prime example, you can't take stuff off of social media and write that story. You got to get it off the police blotter. You got to get it from statements. You got to work, and you cannot just do that, slap that story together. So my point is, as I'm talking to this guy, I said, Shane, I said, I don't know. I said, who's going to be in the portal and what quarterbacks? And he said, I don't know. What have you heard? I said, I don't know. I mean, I know that they've heard this name, obviously the quarterback for Wake Forest, and heard his name. I heard the kid from Georgia Tech, Sims. He went, what? Sims? He's horrible. I hope I wouldn't have him. I said, okay, Shane, I don't watch Georgia Tech's games. I'm just telling you what's in the social media. Well, if that guy comes here, I said, well, That's what I'm telling you. It's a very difficult story to report. David, what do you do when you do your talk show? You and Miller, when you get a report, okay, we're saying we think we have a reliable person. When somebody says 6 players from Minnesota are in the portal, you have to trust somebody. David, what do you do?
Well, I think you can trust when somebody says that, X number of people are in the portal. It's when they get specific that I don't trust it until it comes from literally, the horse's mouth. I mean, my feeling is with this whole transfer thing, it just sit back and have a drink and wait a minute and it'll settle itself out. I mean, it really will. I mean, the Michigan backup quarterback is now in the portal, and the Wake Forest starting quarterback is in the portal. He's deciding whether or not he's going to play his 6th year in college or whether or not he's going to go and get drafted. And, this really will quickly, by the way. Quickly, these kids make quick decisions because they know if they don't, there's someone out there who looks just like them that's going to get the scholarship offer. Okay, these kids all have agents. They have parents that are allowed to actively contact. I mean, this stuff happens quickly. I mean, these kids don't enter the transfer portal without having made a week and a half's worth of phone calls, okay, to already gauge interest. I mean, it's the same as in baseball, buddy. You and I follow baseball. When guys turn down the extension or they elect free agency, they don't then go, whew, boy, hope my phone rings. I mean, their agent's already, taken 15 calls or made 20 calls, and the agent goes, by the way, if you go free agent, you're going to have boom, 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 boom all after you. Oh, well, then let's go free agency. And the same thing's happening in college football.
Well, the Yankees better come up with some cash. They got a big $300 million contract to pay. What do you think of that contract?
I think they're going to end up paying more, and he'll stay. He's just using the others, I think, to drive up the price.
Yeah, he needs more than $300 million. I know.
I know. We all do, buddy.
Well, he's a great player. I will say that. If you're going to pay somebody, he's a guy to pay.
Hey, listen, it's not like the Yankees don't have the money. I mean, really, 300 or 320 over 8 years. Does it really? It's $2.5 million a year. I mean, they're charging $13 for Heineken's, buddy. I mean, come on.
My guys, the tickets cost about $350 a piece, aren't they, or something? It's ridiculous.
Actually, I think it's up to $15 now for the Heineken's.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not exactly the master's prices, that's for sure. Yeah, so, all right, so, baseball, a lot of hot stove left.
Well, here's the other thing, though, getting back to, like, if you're a Gator fan and you're concerned, I'd be shocked if you don't get a good quarterback. I mean, literally shocked. Okay, you're the University of Florida. You play in the SEC. All right. I mean, he's a good, solid coach. I mean, I'd be shocked.
They got Rashada. They got Rashada already.
Yeah, but they're going to need more than that. And no offense,
they got it in the portal. No, they need somebody in the portal for sure.
Well, but also, I think they want to recruit over him for a year, if they can, because we don't know if that kid can play. We don't. He's got potential. Well, everybody's got potential at this level. I think if you're Napier, you want to recruit over him.
Oh, he's doing that. Don't worry. He's doing that. And it's going to be like candy store time when you start looking at the quarterbacks in the portal. Now, I heard this the other day, speaking of and not knowing what to believe. Somebody tweeted from South Carolina, and it looked legit, whatever that means, and you have a feeling about these things, that Spencer Rattler was going to Nebraska to play for his old coordinator who's there with the new staff in Nebraska. Man, now that would be a huge loss. That program had two of the greatest weeks in college football history, and a quarterback who's found his stride. Would he up and do that? And I haven't heard a word since. So I have no way of knowing if that was accurate or whatever. All you can do is say there was a report, that it's going to happen. I don't know.
Well, first off, and I don't know, Rattler has to be a graduate in order to do it. I mean, you can't just go... this isn't like Florida high school where you could just go from high school to high school to high school. I mean, my understanding of the transfer is you get one as an undergrad, and then you can transfer once you've graduated. And you can transfer as many times as you have eligibility. So, like, if you get your degree and you have 2 years eligibility, then you can transfer for both your fifth and your sixth year, so to speak, is my understanding of how it works. If I'm wrong, I apologize. So, the first thing I would ask is to find out if the story is true. Is, by the way, the NIL dollars don't transfer. That's it. It's like you breaking your It's like a coach when they break their contract. They don't still get paid by the place they left. All right. So the NIL dollars are now either they go, but they don't go with the kid. Put it that way. The sponsor then has to decide whether or not they're going to, give it to the next guy or what have you. So the first thing I would want to know is Rattler a graduate or not? Because if he's not, I don't believe he can transfer again without sitting out a year.
It would be his third school in 3 years.
Yeah, and it'd be foolish. It would be foolish. He now knows the system. Clearly, he's comfortable with it. Look at what he's done the last 2 years. He's the toast of the town. I mean, heck, it's a school where if you win 8 games, they jump up and down. So, yeah, I would stay.
Sounds like a perfect fit for him with Shane Beamer there. It sounds like, and boy,
yeah,
he found something. I'm telling you, since he got his butt whipped by Florida, man, he's played really great football.
It also goes to show, I think, and we all, fans and media, have to remember just how long a season is and how it has many ups and downs, and that we live too much week to week. Because, everybody thought, well, South Carolina sucks, put a fork in them, and then look at what they did the last 2 weeks after what the Gators got. And then what the Gators do the very next week after, just absolutely humiliating them. So, I think we all need to take a deep breath and realize it's a long season. They're kids. They only play their A game about 4 to 6 times a year, tops. Good teams do it 6 times. Most teams do it 4. And we just have to suffer through the other days.
Let's talk NFL, one of your beats. And it's getting interesting right now. Like somebody said the other day, who was the coach that said the NFL doesn't start till after Thanksgiving. So many big games coming up here in the next few weeks. Aaron Rodgers, I don't know the latest on him, but he didn't look good when he left the other night.
He gave an interview yesterday in which he said he got a good medical evaluation and that his plan is to play Sunday against the Bears. He says he wants to play as long as they are mathematically eligible for the playoffs. And he believes if they win out and they post 9-8, that until Seattle or the Giants or Washington, until 7 teams prove they're going to post 10, he still says, I want to play until we're mathematically ineligible for the playoffs. He did, however, today when asked, hey, if that day comes, would you agree to sit down and let Jordan Love play? And he said, yeah, I'd be open to it. So
the one thing that he quit the team about. We'll see. It's his time to pack it up soon. Been a great player. He's getting beat up, and hate to see him go out on a stretcher. You know what I mean? But we'll see. It's his prerogative to go when he wants to. He's earned that.
50-something million guaranteed next year, buddy. It's tough to walk away.
I get it. I'm not criticizing for that. I just like to see it go out in one piece.
Oh, I understand. But $3 million a game is tough to walk away from.
Yeah, it's tougher to walk, not to be able to walk away from anything. That's what's tough. Boy, what's wrong with the Bucs? They had to win game 1. I've seen so many egregious misuses of timeouts, David. What is up with timeouts? I mean, do people think they can take them and cash them in at the bank if they don't use them or what? Please find out from me among your buddies why so many coaches are taking timeouts home with them and into halftime.
Buddy, I don't understand it because much like what my role is to Gary and Troy, I'm there to whisper things in their ear like, remember, they've got 3 timeouts. Plenty of time. They can run the ball here. Well, these guys have to have guys upstairs who are doing the same thing. I mean, Jeff Saturday not calling a timeout and letting 2 plays take over 1:10 in the final 2 minutes of the game.
Makes no sense.
And the 17-year veteran quarterback also doesn't call one. I mean, what the heck?
Really?
And Todd Bowles, who had this trouble with the Jets, he was not a great clock manager with the Jets, and now here we are 10 years later, and the first really tight game with clock management, and he blows it. After doing a decent job at home against the Rams with clock management, it was the Rams that screwed that one up, not Todd. But, I don't get it, buddy. I don't.
I mean,
It's not as hard as they make it out to be. I'm sorry.
no, it's not. It's not. And coaches have an affinity for making stupid blunders on the simplest of things, like not having enough people on the field, like just not be able to realize they have timeouts, letting the clock just click away, not playing players they should be playing. They make a lot of dumb mistakes, and people don't understand that. And I mean, these guys are paid a lot of money to make. If you can't figure that out, get somebody on the staff who can, and say your job is to make sure we don't have timeouts or wasted, and whatever. I mean, quality control is a lost art on things like that. I mean, it's just crazy.
I agree. Bill Parcells was once asked a key to success in the NFL. He said, if you let the other team lose the game, they will do it for you more times than not.
Yeah. He's right about that. That's old school Robert Nalen philosophy. Like the Tennessee is, the team that makes the fewest mistake wins, what they say. So, there's a lot of things that coaches need to bone up on, like 2-point plays, what have you. Well, here we sit.
Well, if I could just throw this out there, the
Sure.
bad thing for Tampa Bay now is that they've lost so many games that even if they get their act together, it's difficult for them to be anything more than the 4 seed.
Yeah.
And yes, they'll get a home playoff game, but they're going to get either the Eagles or the Cowboys. I mean, they're going to get the second best team in theory in the NFC in their very first playoff game. And then if they win it, unless there's an upset, they'll then have to play on the road the best team in the NFC. So while I think the Bucs are the best team in that division and will win it and will host a playoff game, they're going to be an underdog even in the home playoff game, and their playoff run's going to be very short.
Well, that's the way it should be. If you can't perform during the regular season, you should be penalized for it, and that's what they did. So that defense, I thought I had high hopes for that defense. I just thought Brady could not make mistakes, they could win almost any game.
Well, I'll say this. I mean, when you in this day and age, buddy, if you hold somebody to 17 points, you should win.
Should.
And they held Cleveland to 17 in regulation, and it took a great 4th and 10 catch to make it 17.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is that after they went up 17-10, the Bucs had the ball 7 times.
Really?
Six punts and ran out of time at the end of regulation.
That's right.
I mean,
in
fact, they barely crossed midfield after taking the 17-10 lead. So, I think it's more on the offense. The defense, by the way, held an informal team meeting yesterday. They basically went out to dinner as a group, and both linebackers are taking ownership and saying, we used to be a closer unit 2 years ago, and we're letting the little things slide. I do think they care, buddy. I do. I think Brady's all in emotionally. I think the defensive leaders are all in. They're just not good enough right now.
Brady gave up his marriage for it, so there you go. In a bizarre story, still can't figure that one out. But so now, David, it looks pretty simple in the playoffs. They got the right 4 teams in there, but there's going to be a change probably. And which team is going to move up to 5 if that happens? To 4, I mean, it happens. You got 2 teams lurking behind. Obviously, Ohio State being one. And what should you make of this Final 4 and the teams behind them?
So you don't think TCU and USC are going to win?
I don't know. I'm saying what happens if they slip.
Well, I've talked to a lot of people this week, and it has surprised me, buddy. Like, I thought TCU's spot in the playoff was tenuous, that they had to win to stay in. There are a lot of people who cover college football for a living who have said to me, I think if TCU loses by 7 or less, they're in.
Really?
Yeah. Well,
No.
I know it surprised. It is, but here's their reasoning. Nobody's happy with the alternatives, buddy. They watched Ohio State in the big game, get hammered, and they're like, we just don't think they deserve it. Alabama's got 2 losses. Their best win is against 20th or 21st ranked Texas. And people are just like, no, man, not this Alabama team. And then if you go Tennessee or Penn State, the arguments get even worse. I'm sensing, buddy, from people in the sport that they just don't think the 5th and 6th place teams deserve to back in this year. And they are going to do everything possible to keep this for the 4.
You're
Unless,
talking too many Texas and California people.
no, I'm not. I haven't talked to any Texas and California people, to be honest with you. Now, I think USC has to win. I do. I mean, until they put in a 2-loss team, I'm not going to believe that they're going to do it. So I do think USC has to win. But it's funny how many people think that TCU, unless they get beat the way Ohio State did, that they think that the committee will find a way to keep TCU in. I don't. I mean, the teams that are 5 and 6 happen to be the 2 biggest television draws in the sport. And at the end of the day, this is business and this is entertainment. And if you're the committee and TCU and USC lose and you have a chance to have Georgia play Ohio State and Michigan play Alabama, are you serious? You're not going to do it? Of course you're going to do it.
They're still the Blue Bloods. I don't care what TCU does. I can understand USC. And by the way, TCU looks very good, by the way. They're solid on both sides of the ball. Their quarterback needs to get a little more love than he's getting right now. And they're a good football team. But this is November, and things happen. And really, really good coaches coach really, really good in big games. I just think we're going to see something wacky. I don't think we'll see both those teams in the Final Four. One of them is going to lose, at least. And waiting in the wings, you know who they are.
Mm-hmm. I do. I will say this. Here's the other thing that I'm getting a sense of. So the 2 teams that were not good enough to play this weekend are going to get the benefit because the 2 teams who were good enough to play this weekend lost. I mean, you have to admit, if you were presenting that argument to the jury, it's not a good argument.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I guess that's why they have to have the playoff, David. To find this stuff out.
It's why they put this committee together. I mean, and listen, we all know TCU and USC win, they're in, they deserve to be in. Good luck. But I mean, buddy, in theory, we got rid of the computers because we wanted someone to be held accountable for when we got the matchup that we didn't like.
Right.
Well, this is why these 14 people are getting paid.
Okay, David, in the remaining minutes we got here, I feel compelled as an American to talk about Captain American and the U.S. soccer team and playing the Netherlands on. I'll be watching, and you will too.
Well, I mean, if there's ever a Saturday not to watch any of the pregame shows, this is the Saturday, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so the U.S. and the Netherlands at 10 a.m., let's do it.
Yeah.
And then it's over. It's over by noon, and we can put on the Big 12 title game. Let's go.
Is it on noon or 9? 9 or 10? I don't know. Maybe 9 is the pregame. I don't know.
Yeah, 9 is the pregame. The match starts at 10. It'll be over around noon.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I was enamored by that. And that was I never thought I'd say this. That was a very dramatic 1-0 soccer game.
Usually 1-goal soccer matches are. I'm not going to pretend to be a soccer expert. I just know from listening to those that are, even though we won, they're not happy with our head coach's substitutions, who he's putting in, haven't gotten much from the bench, and they're questioning why certain players haven't played, including a young kid by the name of Gio Reyna, who many people think is going to be like the next big thing in U.S. soccer, and he's played about 7 minutes in this World Cup. So that's what I'm curious about. They got 5 substitutes now, buddy. They can put in the match, and we got a couple of key guys injured who are not going to play the full 90 to 100 minutes. So if we're hanging in there in the second half with the Netherlands, I'll be curious. The coaching decisions are going to be questioned.
Gotta believe in Captain America. Listen, from Hershey, Pennsylvania, man. How about that dude putting his body on the line and getting that goal and saving the day? Because if they don't get that goal, they're going home.
Yes, they are. Much like Landon Donovan 12 years ago, getting that goal to send us through, and it worked out very well for Landon. And I will say this group is young, one of the younger teams in the World Cup, and we're going to host this sucker in 4 years. And a lot of these guys are going to get to play together between now and then. This is really the appetizer for 2026, buddy. We should be pretty darn good by 2026 and finally be the soccer nation that the soccer fan has wanted us to be.
I can't wait to 2026, Dave. I don't even buy green bananas, okay? I can't. I'll have to trust you on that. Good stuff as always. David Moulton bringing it every Wednesday night. I want to say it once again. David Moulton brought to you by Titan MRI. Worth the short drive to Gainesville. No insurance, no problem. You can pay with cash or card with the same day schedule advancing. You can start by feeling better today knowing that Titan MRI is North Central Florida's premier independent MRI facility. Come see why hundreds of patients are visiting our Gainesville location, Ocala, Marion County, and the villages as TitanMRI.com. David, well done, my friend. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the pitch. You like that? Enjoy the pitch. Yeah.
Nice.
There you go. And enjoy the game this weekend, my friend. Talk to you
All
next
right.
week. Thanks. Great job, David.
Take care, everyone. Have a good night.
All right, David Moulton. He's a quality guy. Does quality work. I'm fortunate to have him. I'm proud of all my lineup of guys. Thanks again, folks, for your supporting the program. Thanks for our guest tonight, David, and good job, I want to say again, by our G team, and especially Kyle Curtis and Brendan Martin, and the job they did on the KITNA story. If you haven't heard about it, then you'll have to check it out. Go to GatorBait.com, GatorBaitMedia.com, and check out our stories posted there. We'll tell you what you want to know. It's just straight up. It's not no sensationalism, no sensationalism. Just journalistically what happened to Jalen Kitna today in this sad story. I hope you have a better day tomorrow. Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow night with Ben Troop, possibly Bob Redmond, Franz Beard, for Orange and Blue Bloods Thursday, Gator Collective Corner. Good night.